Today, I'm going to describe what Texas A&M's playoff hopes should be this season.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. New customers right now can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking a little bit about the basketball coaching search. Of course, we got turned down like somebody looking for a prom date by Chris Beard. It looks like he was using the A&M job for leverage to get more money at Ole Miss, but we'll talk about that, talk about some other names. I've got two names I'm interested in now, one of which seems serious, one of which I think is kind of a dream hope. But we're going to start today talking about an article from Saturday Down South. This is from Connor O'Gara. I think he's a heck of a writer. I really like all of his stuff. And he wrote an article titled, Texas A&M hasn't earned college football playoff expectations, but don't be stunned if first bid awaits in 2025. I think that before we get to the nitty gritty of this article, I think that's a great title. And the reason I think that's a great headline is because, we talk about this all the time. I think the reason that folks get so frustrated with Texas A&M football is because they say to themselves, what have they done to earn this kind of, what have they done to earn, hey, they're really good? And, every year Texas A&M has these expectations, right? Every year we talk about, hey, they're a really good program. They're a really good team. And then they kind of under-deliver on those expectations. We've seen it year after year after year after year. So I think that's kind of become the expectations for Texas A&M is like, oh, here we go. Texas A&M, they're pretty good, but they're, not great. And they're not going to be as good as we think, and yada, 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 yada. Like, that's what always, that's the expectation now for Texas A&M football. I think that shift happened last year. I think everyone's officially saying to themselves, yeah, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. And I think this year, when you read this article from O'Gara over at Saturday Down South, it exemplifies what I've been saying here on Locked On Aggies for a while, but I think what the expectations should look like for this football program in the future. So let's run through this. This article kind of gives like a background. Then it says, wait a minute, a playoff path for A&M ? Let's move past the fact that one of Velco's offseason tasks was teaching the secondary how to defend zone coverage. That's funny. They're an 8-win team that ranks number 6 in percentage of returning production. It's a team that'll have continuity at quarterback with Marcel Reed, who will operate behind an offensive line with all 5 returning starters. Offensive line continuity with the veteran quarterback was a backbone of A&M's 2020 season, which included the program's best AP Top 25 finish, number 4 since 1939. All SEC running back Le'Veon Moss will be working his way back, and Reuben Owens is ready for a promising year 2. The loss of Noah Thomas and Derby Barber will be tough, but NC State transfer Casey Concepcion has proven star at this level, even if in the thin receiver and Reed is going to full off season. First teamers would be beneficial. He was inconsistent as pass rush 24. Only 14.8% of his throws were 20 yards downfield, and he had an adjusted completion percentage of 27.8% on those throws, which was 15th among 16 qualified SEC QBs, and his 46.2 adjusted completion percentage under pressure was also last in the conference. But, it basically goes on to say, Reed's coming out party was that LSU game. It talks about how the 7.5 win total over on FanDuel. I'm also acknowledging the team that went 8-4 in the regular season, who ranks number 60 percentage of returning production with the top 10 portal class, and its coordinator's back is a strong candidate to improve by a game and go 9-3, as we learned from last year. The likes of Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, a 9-3 team from the SEC is going to get a legitimate 12-team playoff consideration. Look at A&M's schedule. You'll see something evident. These 3 games will have A&M as an underdog, and it'd be surprising. And it'd be a surprise if anything but 0-3 mark was the result at Notre Dame, at LSU, at Texas. So then it gives, those other 9 games of like, hey, here's your path to a 9-win. UTSA, Utah State, Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas, Missouri, South Carolina, Samford. But I mean, the article finishes saying, just don't dismiss the possibility that Elko, who isn't Jimbo Fisher or Kevin Sumlin, established more of a year one developmental foundation than outsiders realized. Improvement is never truly imminent in the SEC, though it helps to have the returning pieces that Elko has. If that result in A&M finally earning their first playoff berth, nobody should need to pick their jaws up off the floor. I think that's the statement right there. That's the sentence when I read this. I love this. If this results in A&M finally getting their first playoff berth, nobody needs to pick their jaws up off the floor. That's the statement that speaks volumes to me. And that's why I want to talk about the expectations. I mean, my expectations right now, I think this team's going to win 8 football games. That's my thought. I think that if you overachieve, you win 9 or 10. But I think that overachieving is 9. I just don't. I think at Texas, at Notre Dame are pretty darn tough there. I don't see you winning those games. And then you'd have to be perfect in those other 10 games to win 10 games. So I think 9 would be, but as it said in that article, 9 wins as South Carolina, as Alabama, 9 wins gives you a shot. It gives you a shot. So, I mean, this is, I guess, my concern for this team when it comes to expectations and when it comes to what folks believe. And at the end of the day, who cares what people think? You know what I mean? I think that, we've talked about this a lot here at Locked On Aggies. I mean, we know how good Marcel Reed can be. We know how good your offensive line is going to be. We like our receiver transfers. We like you got the guys you got in the running back room. We have a pretty darn good defense of returning players. There's concerns to this team. There's no question there's concerns. There's concerns to every team in the SEC. But I'm just telling y'all, and this becomes and I think what I'm about to say is what annoys people. But with the talent Texas A&M has, is the reality. If this team clicks, they can make a college football playoff. That's the reality. If they click, they can make a playoff appearance. If they don't click, then they're probably going to win 7 football games, maybe 8. That's the reality. But I just think it's crazy. I think people it's almost like people get jealous of how much talent A&M has that they haven't really produced a ton of success with, to where they're like, gosh, I mean, if my team had all this, you know what I mean? And that's kind of why the disliking of the Texas A&M football program comes from. So, I mean, that's kind of my take here, ladies and gentlemen, is I think that this Texas A&M football team, the expectation, it needs to start with all the talent we've got. It needs to start becoming playoff or bust. I mean, we're playing in the SEC. We're not a school like a Vandy or a Kentucky where you're just like, yay, we made a bowl game. No, that bowl game is with all this talent and how good this coaching staff is. That word should never even be uttered. Who cares? Do y'all care about the Las Vegas Bowl? I know I sure as crap don't. Who cares about the Las Vegas Bowl? So playoffs need to start becoming a reasonable expectation for this program. And I think it's valid for those that say, well, it isn't right now. I agree it isn't right now. So I think that if it's going to become that in the future, this is the year it needs to happen. So I really want to see Texas A&M continue to develop talent and get better and better every single year. But I think that's reasonable expectations. I love that sentence from this article from Saturday Down South. Don't pick your jaw up off the floor if Texas A&M makes the playoff. That's the reality. Am I betting on it right now? Probably not. I'm not. Let's just be honest. It's a tough schedule, a lot of tough road games. A quarterback that we believe is going to be good, but we don't know. There's a lot of question marks. But yeah, I mean, it would not be crazy if this football team went 9-3 and snuck into that 12 seed or went 10-2 and made the playoff. It would not be crazy, to say the least. So that is where I think the reasonable expectations should be for Texas A&M football right now when it comes to a chance of making the playoff. We're going to talk a little bit about the coaching search for basketball. We got more wrenches thrown at us. We got more to figure out. We'll break it down coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again. And if you're feeling the last hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy, the lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in around the golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up late watching the tournament, and 5 Hour Energy has been the reason I've been able to do it. With the longer days, I like to get outside. I've been doing a lot of fishing, and tropical burst has been the flavor I've been going to with 5 Hour Energy, and it's been helping me be active and stay outside. Whether I'm at a game or traveling, 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab and keeps me feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12 or 24 pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. So we found out yesterday that Chris Beard will not be taking the job as the head coach of the Texas A&M Aggies. Of course, for those of you that are still trying to catch up, Buzz Williams has made the move to Maryland, and Texas A&M is looking for a new head basketball coach. And it looked like, and I mean, now I think we've all maybe done this with jobs before, but that's what Chris Beard was doing. He was looking for Ole Miss to give him some more money. I don't know how serious was he about the A&M job, or was he truly just trying to say, hey, Ole Miss, they offered me this. You got to offer me more or I'm going. I think that's what he was doing, which, hey, smart to Chris Beard. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. But, I mean, now A&M is looking for a new basketball coach. And the one name that has been popping up a lot is Alan Huss, who led that High Point team that I think they became famous from the Mean Mug. That guy did the Mean Mug. I don't know if y'all saw that. Look up High Point Mean Mug if you know what I'm talking about. But in KenPom, they are sitting at 82nd overall. Their offense is 27th overall. Now, here's where it gets a little scary in KenPom. Their defense is 226th. So those of you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies have heard me gripe about Buzz Williams and the lack of offense in his system. And we all agree, yes, he is great when it comes to defense and rebounding. There's nobody better than Buzz Williams. But when it comes to offense, his teams were a little bit stagnant, and they weren't moving the ball quite like I would have hoped, and all those different things. So yeah, I think that we need to see a coach with balance. And I mean, I'll give you a great example why. There are 4 teams currently in the Final Four. Shocker there. Those teams: Duke, their offense is 1, their defense is 5. Houston, their offense is 10, their defense is 1. Florida, their offense is 2, their defense is 10. And Auburn, their offense is 3, and their defense is 8. All 4 of those teams in the Final Four have offense and defensive ratings on KenPom inside of the top 10. And, I mean, this has been a stat. This is nothing surprising. I mean, you've got to be good on both sides of the ball. You can't just live and die by defense or live and die by offense. That's the reality. If you want to be a successful program or a successful team and have a successful season, you've got to be good on both ends of the court. So I like Alan Huss, and I think that, yes. So, I mean, once again, he's 82nd overall in KenPom, offense 27th, defense 226th. If you hire him, I mean, I believe that he will be able to turn things around and, get a better defense together. I think that he can do that, but that's just a scary number. I mean, that's like one of the worst. I mean, how many teams do we got on here total? 364. So 364, and that's really scary to see. I mean, it lets you know, hey, if we don't find a way to improve that defense, that's a little concerning. But offensively, I mean, his offense, Alan Huss's offense, is incredible. I mean, we talked about this. I talked about this a little bit yesterday when I talked about the coaching search and I talked about all that. I mean, Todd Golden, the Final Four coach, comes from San Francisco, and Nate Oates, Alabama's coach, comes from Buffalo, takes him to the Elite Eight, took him to the Final Four last year. This works out a lot. We see it happen a lot. We see basketball coaches come from smaller schools and succeed. So could Alan Huss be that next name on this long list of coaches who have succeeded at new stops? And I think the answer to that question is yes. So I'm cool with that if you make that hire. Another name that I really like is, and this is an interesting one, is Chris Jans from over at Mississippi State. He runs they call him the dentist because his defense is, I forget why, because this defense is like getting your teeth pulled out. I mean, I really like Chris Jans. I think that he's a good basketball coach. I think he'd be a good fit system-wise. This is an interesting one. I mean, I haven't heard. That's a name I saw on a list like yesterday, I believe. I'm not sure if there's any like relevance to it or how legit that this is, but I'm all in on that hire if they do make that move. I think that Chris Jans is a good basketball coach. I think that his Mississippi State Bulldogs were, where are they at? 33rd in KenPom. The offense was 24. The defense was 46. So Chris Jans did not have his best defensive season team-wise this year, but they're really good. So I'd be cool with that. But, I mean, this has been one of the weirdest coaching searches because, like, it was all Chris Beard. And now it's just like, okay, what's going on here? Are we going to do anything? Are we going to go land some – are we going to go get a coach? Like, it just after the Chris Beard thing died down around midday yesterday, it's been a full day, and there hasn't been a single thing pop up besides, obviously, the Alan Huss has been discussed a little bit. But, I mean, you got to – if you want to put together a team that is at all competitive next season, you have got to get a coach because at the end of the day, I mean, you need a coach to put a roster together. And right now, as Calipari said last year when he took the Arkansas job, I met with a team. There is no team. That's going to be the case for Texas A&M. There is no team. They need to go and get a coach and start getting players, or, I mean, you might as well just throw away next season, which could end up being what happens. But got to go after a coach, so we'll see what happens. We'll keep talking about this throughout the week. Want to talk a little bit about Ruben Owens. Been hearing some good things about him, and we'll discuss it coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to talk about our friends over at FanDuel. The NCAA tournament is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eyes on a few underdogs this week in the MLB and, of course, in the NCAA tournament. And FanDuel makes it easy to back that with spreads, totals, and game props. With the tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on college hoops action all tournament long. Staying on this college hoops trend, also want to show you all our video from our promotion for the bracket breakdown between Locked On and the Amazon Fire TV channels. This is a really cool thing. Got lots of Gordon Hayward, former Butler star, former NBA guy, a lot of cool stuff going on the bracket breakdown show. And here's our promo for that right here.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
So Ruben Owens is coming back this year, and of course, he's coming off that injury that he talked about. He was not 100% even when he played last year, And now Le'Veon Moss is, still fighting back from his injury. And I've heard some good things about Ruben Owens. And we heard good things from Ruben Owens last year around this time. We heard good things about Ruben Owens heading into the season. Then, of course, the horrible, painful injury happens, and you miss Ruben Owens. But it sounds like he's going to be good to go. And I mean, when you have a healthy Moss and a healthy Owens out there, it's going to be really scary to see how good that tandem can be, because I think it can be special. But I mean, Ruben Owens, once again, a former 5-star guy who never really got the opportunity to get going last year. Freshman year, he puts up some good numbers, but he was ready to take another leap and another jump. And I think that he was going to take that leap, and then he gets that injury, comes back, plays a few snaps against Texas, gets a handful of carries in the bowl game against USC, which is good to see him back on the field. But I think this year is going to be the breakout year for Ruben Owens. Now, I think that we're going to see a lot of carries go to Le'Veon Moss as well, but I think we're going to see a lot of carries go to Ruben Owens, and I think he's going to have a good year. I still believe Ruben Owens is an NFL player. I believe he's got the upside. I believe he's going to be a special player. So I am really excited to see what this year looks like for Ruben Owens, because I think he's special, and I think he's going to have that breakout year that we thought he was going to have last year, but the injury prevented from happening. Now, it's going to be a 1-2 punch. We're going to see a lot of carries go to Moss, but I think Owens is going to get enough carries, especially early in the year, depending on what happens with Moss and his injury. Owens is going to get a lot of carries early in the year that are going to make it easy for him to really continue to get better and better and prove that he needs to be a big part of this offense for the future. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Helps the show out a ton. Leave a 5-star review on podcast platforms. All of that helps me out and helps the show out. This week, we'll have a lot more on this basketball coaching search. Whatever happens, we'll be ready to rock and roll. So dial it in and be ready for all that stuff. It's going to be a fun conversation. Hopefully our basketball program gets a good coach and we're in a good spot and we're competitive again, but we'll see. We'll have to see who Trev Albert hires. So we will figure that out, but we'll keep you updated on all that coaching search news right here on Locked On Aggies. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you tomorrow on Friday right here on Locked On Aggies.